Hey there. Today I want to read a quote, and it's from Paul Sartre, and it's pretty awesome. So what I try to do, I haven't read uh, really any information from his text regarding this quote. I really found this online. I'm giving the layman's interpretation, and in doing so, I sort of put together my own sort of an argument, to kind of work out what he possibly might have meant. And this is just, I guess, an exercise, if anything. Where did I put it? Okay, so Sartre puts, "We do not know what we want, but we are responsible for what we are." That sounds very true, and let me start by explaining how I think that might be so. Uh, we do not know what we want is the first line I want to pick up and analyze. I don't think we know what we want. Usually for me, whenever I talk and generalize about everybody, I feel like I'm making some sort of objective mistake when doing that. But for some reason, it seems right to say that. When nobody, I don't suppose, knows the best possible outcome. And that is to say that unless you're armchairing all the way through a math problem, or statistically finding every possibility out of a possible result, then you actually can say that you know the best possible, the best possible outcome. However, take Blaise Pascal for a second, when he kind of diagrammed in the four-line box the existence of God. He tried to pretty much use the Christian God versus the atheist, and that thing had all sorts of problems in my opinion anyway, but nonetheless, that right there was a perfect example of somebody attempting to really discover all the possibilities behind making a rational choice by not just choosing randomly or blindly, as it were. In day-to-day conversations, for instance, relationship, trying to impress, basically there's an overarching goal in going on a date. You want to see the girl again, or you want to impress her, or your overall goal is basically to not look like a fool, or to, be a certain way, or whatever. There's always really a goal, I suppose. And when you're there, the whole idea about being smooth, like, oh yeah, look at that guy just had that line, pulled it straight up, that was kind of chief. That is possibly a great outcome, that he came up very quick-wittedly about whatever smooth line he pulled, but it wasn't the best possible outcome. Is something he really, at that point, given that there's conversations go by moment, there isn't that armchair time to really figure out and think through what is the best thing that I could say that's going to possibly get me towards my goal, whatever the goal may be. So it seems to me that there's a confusion that goes on, a sort of ambivalence of, I'm not really sure what I should choose, but while I have to make up my mind within this short amount of time, she's waiting for a response, I better say something that sounds half as impressive to me, that possibly, see, here comes the confusion, that possibly is going to get me to where I need to be, get me to get her and I onto another date, or, to take her back to my house for a cup of coffee or something. And it's not really as if we can know a couple seconds into the future how somebody's going to react. So I need to choose, if not the best possible result, although that would be ideal, setting the standard all the way at the top, I need to choose something fairly great that's going to make me closer to achieving my goal. And if you've seen the movie Next, that's a pretty good example with Nicolas Cage, Jessica Biel, where he's able to see a couple seconds into the future, and he tries to go on a date with that one girl, Jessica Biel, and he's sitting right there in that one scene where he looks a couple seconds into the future and sees, okay, so how does this pickup line work? Goes to her and he gets a big slap on the face, because obviously it failed miserably, and then so he thinks about another one. He thinks up another couple seconds in the future of a different method, basically choosing otherwise, and this one was sort of courageous, but he ended up, towards the end of it, kind of failing miserably again, again sounding a bit like a chump. And then finally, when he actually goes over there to go actually, talk to her, by this point he's thought about every scenario, every possible scenario that he could have, you know, achieved that goal that he wanted to basically take her home or get her number or something. Whatever his goal was, he already chose every possible scenario he could have played out, and by the time he actually chose to act on it, he was able to choose the best possible outcome, which is magnificent. But in this sort of sense, we humans naturally don't have that capacity to, have sort of premonitions about 5-10 minutes into the future, and because of which we can't choose the best possible outcome, which renders our decision making half-assed. Okay, and so that, I think, it would probably be my first premise in this sort of half argument. Like, we don't know the best possible outcome. The best possible outcome brings confidence in decisioning our wants. So, our wants are a direct reflection towards what we eventually want to achieve, our goal, and thereby is a reflection of our decisions, really. And not in every case. I'm sure there's, and this is why I say that we do not know what we want most of the time. This may be the only adjustment I would make to Paul Sartre's quote, tackling it from the angle that I'm looking at it in. Because sometimes our wants aren't a direct reflection of our decisions, and a good example of that is, torture or rape or things against your will that are decisions that are basically forced decisions. You will do this or else, basically, or else consequence. And the decision then is not made, it's still made by, the person that's being forced to do it, but nonetheless they're being forced, which changes the ballgame from willing to unwilling. And so I put here the second line that for the most part we don't know what we want. I sure as hell would know what I want if I was in a jail cell and somebody said spread them. I would definitely not want to be in that predicament. Okay, so I'm going to continue reading this. The best possible outcome brings confidence in decisioning our wants, whereas not knowing the best possible option breeds ambivalence or even self-deception. While we're in this mode of sort of imagining what is the best possible outcome, or maybe not explicitly thinking that, but, well, we kind of come to this acceptance universally. Every human being at a subjective level, it comes to this acceptance in their everyday discourse, casual discourse with anybody, their professors, they're in their relationships with their girlfriend or boyfriends, or casual talk with mom or dad or friends, cousins, whatever. There's this sort of implicit these small implicit goals that are set in each scenario, in each conversation, where and they last momentarily, where maybe you want to tell a joke or front off a certain way or be seen in a certain way when you're speaking, or try to transcend a certain idea, and in doing so, that is in itself a goal. And in order to obtain the goal, to make sure that whatever you're trying to transcend works to its best, you would ideally want the best possible outcome. However, that's not really available, since at that moment you can't know each possible outcome that breeds the best result. And because of that, it's sort of already an accepted notion that, okay, well, let's just see how this one flies. And so you're sort of not, I wouldn't want to say confused, but you're not at the height of the ideal certainty that one would wish in an ideal sense. And with that in mind, I wanted to bring about another possible scenario. Somebody can, some personality, because personalities are very diverse, how it might affect another person, instead of them thinking at this very subjective level that, okay, let's just see how this one flies, with that sort of attitude, trying to attain their goal. Instead, they say something along the lines like, and they do something along the lines